Hello, guys. Welcome back for the fifth chapter of NCRT Class 6th Geography. Major domains of the Earth. So there are four major domains: lithosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, and the biosphere. Okay, by the way, atmosphere, the word atmo has come from the Sanskrit word ukta. Okay, ukt means wet. Okay, ukt wet became atmo, right? So at means wetness, vapor. Okay, yeah, hydrosphere. Okay, so the word hydrosphere has come from the Latin word hydro, which has in turn come from the Sanskrit word. The root word is ud, right? So the udak in Sanskrit means water. Okay, like it has hudor. Russian it's oda, vodka, water, right? Or udanvat means watery. Udanvat, ocean. Udang, udandki, bucket. Udanch, pump. Udanya, thirst. Udanyu, pouring out water. So ud is the root word here. And finally, bio has come from, as it is written, bios means life. Vivo, viva, vivacious. These all are, Latin word. Vivo, vivi, right? So vivo has come from the Latin word vivi. Vivi has come from the, the root word jeev. So jeev became vivi, vivi became vivo, vivid, vivacious, right? And these all turn to lively, right? So jeev in Slavic it's gojb. Jeev becomes goj, so gojiti. Jivti becomes gojiti. Persian it's zistan, right? In Tocharian as in Xinjiang it's sai. Armenian it's kim, right? So that was about some of the interesting etymologies as it's written here. The word origin, right? Okay. Yes, lithosphere. Solid portion of Earth is called lithosphere. Lithos means rocks, right? Now, if we move to important mountain systems of the world, as you can see from the map, most famous, the Himalayas, having the tallest mountain peaks, but very interestingly, it is not the longest, it's not the lengthiest mountain range. In that terms, it comes sixth, right? Mount Everest is the tallest there with 8.2 to 9 kilometer. It's the length of Himalayas is 2.6 kilometers only, right? The Great Dividing Range of Australia is lengthier than the Himalayas, having roughly 3.5 kilometer in length, starting from north here, going up till the north of up till Adelaide, right? So this is the Great Dividing Range, very near to the so Great Dividing Range is on the eastern portion of Australia, and it's an escarpment, and to the northwest we have Great Sandy Desert. Okay, so this was about the Great Dividing Range, 3.5 kilometers, and Koishuko is the tallest peak there. Then we have Trans-Antarctic Range in Antarctica. It divides Antarctica into western half and the eastern half. Again, the length is greater than that of Himalayas, 3.5k, quite similar to that of Great Dividing Range, and Kirkpatrick is the tallest mountain there. Okay, Rocky Mountains in North America is, further lengthier than the Trans-Antarctic and Great Dividing Range, with the length of about 4.8 kilometers, 4.8 thousand kilometers, excuse me, roughly 4,800 kilometers. And the tallest peak there is Mount Elbert, 4,400 meters from the ground. So 4.4 k. K here means kilo. Kilo is 1,000, right? Okay. Lengthier than Rocky Mountains are southern Great Escarpments, of which Drakensberg Mountain is the part, right? So southern Great Escarpment, the tallest peak is Thabana, roughly 3,000 meters above the ground. And yes, definitely the length is greater than that of Rocky Mountains, roughly 5k. And the lengthiest of all mountain range on land is the Andes, right from the north going up till the south, roughly 7,000 kilometers in length. And the tallest peak on Andes is Aconcagua. That also is roughly 7,000 meters above the ground level, right? Apart from these important mountain peaks, okay, by the way, the Drakensberg mountain, it has been named by the Dutch people who settled here because of the shape of the mountain seemed like a dragon. Okay, and berg is for the people living on the mountain, right? Like iceberg. So Draken is dragon, berg, right? Some other important mountain peaks are Appalachian Mountains, right? Which is also related to the Atlas Mountains, right? Appalachian is towards the east, Atlas Mountains in Morocco. Then we have Alps Mountain in Switzerland, Italy. And the Ural Mountain acts as a divide between the Asia and the Europe. Right? So that was about the mountains, and that is how we complete our lithosphere. Other important facts are like the lowest, the greatest depth is recorded at Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, roughly 11 kilometers. And definitely, Tenzing Norgay Sherpa was an Indian, the first Indian to climb Mount Everest. Bachindri Pal was the first Indian women to climb the Mount Everest, right? Next, we move to continents. There are 7 major continents separated by large water bodies, right? Asia is the largest continent, covers about 1/3 of the total land area of the earth. That was like phenomenal. Asia covers 1/3. So land on earth covers roughly 1/3 also. And in that 1/3 also, roughly 29%, and in that 1/3 also, Asia covers 1/3, right? So 66% is occupied by other continents. Yeah. And the continent lies in the eastern hemisphere. Tropic of Cancer passes through this continent. Yeah, Ural Mountains we have already discussed. Europe is smaller, bounded by water bodies on the 3 sides. Africa is second largest. So Asia is the largest, Africa is the second largest, and the equator or 0 degree latitude runs almost through the middle of the continent. And a large part lies in the northern hemisphere, right? Yeah. Another important fact is that the continents, the greater part of the landmass lies in the northern hemisphere, right? This is a very important fact. And the southern part of the earth, southern hemisphere of earth has lesser of land mass, right? At present. Earlier it was different. Okay, interesting. Yeah, during the Gondwana age, right? Yeah. Africa, second largest. Equator 0 degree, we have already talked. That the only continent through which the Tropic of Cancer, the equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn, all the 3 passes. No other continent in the world, all the 3 line passes. Very, very interesting, right? Sahara Desert, the world's largest hot desert, is located in Africa. World's largest hot desert. This term is very, very important, right? So let's just, yeah, bounded on all sides by the ocean and the seas. Look at the world map. Yeah, the longest river Nile is in there, and yeah, North Africa is the third largest continent. That is very important. So first is Asia, second is Africa, and the third is North America, not South America, not Antarctica. It's North America. Okay, it's linked to South America by a very narrow strip of land known as Isthmus of Panama. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so here is North America and here is South America. Here you will see a narrow piece of land which connects both North America and South America. It's known as isthmus. The word isthmus has come from the Latin word lamus, right? Or the isthmus, it actually means neck, right? And isthmus has in turn come from the Sanskrit word iti. Iti means to go. Okay, so what goes? Definitely through the neck the food goes, right? So iti to isthmus, and isthmus to the narrow piece of land joining two large land masses, right? So that is known as isthmus, and Panama Isthmus joins the two, North America and South America. Another isthmus is here in Suez. So this is also an isthmus which joins Africa with Asia, right? So two important isthmus. All right, so next we have already talked about North America. Let's look about some of the important straits before going to isthmus, because if either it can be a land joining two land masses, or it can be a water body which join two land, or which joins two land masses, right? For example, here you can see a water body. It's separating the Africa from the Asia. So what is that known as? That is known as strait. Okay, Strait. Let's look some of the important straits of the world, right? So yeah, yes. So first is the Bering Strait. So Bering Strait connects North America and the Asia, and it important, very very important, because it also connects the Chukchi Sea from the Bering Sea, that is Chukchi Sea in the Arctic Ocean and the Bering Sea in the North Pacific Ocean. Next is the Tatarsky. Now Tatarsky is area. Tatarsky is an area which it's a strait which separates the Sakhalin islands of Russia from its mainland. Okay, that is about Tatarsky. Next is Malacca. Malacca is the longest strait in the world. Around 25% of the trading takes place through the Malacca. So very very important, and it's between Malaysia and Indonesia. Next is the Torres and the Bass. Now the Torres is on between Australia and Papua New Guinea. We have the Torres Strait. The Bass Strait is between the Tasmania and the Australian mainland, right? Next is the Cook Strait. The Cook Strait is between the two islands of the New Zealand, right? Next we have the Balabac. Now, the Balabac Strait is between the Philippines and Malaysia, right? Very near to Mindanao, but not exactly there. So yeah, Kalamin Group, Tete. Next is the Makassar. Makassar is a strait between the Kalimantan and the Sulawesi. Sulawesi is K-shaped. Borneo is the largest island of Indonesia. Okay, so Makassardin, next is the Palk. Palk is strait, as you can see in the figure, between India and Sri Lanka. Next is Gibraltar. Gibraltar is a strait which separates Spain from Morocco, Europe from Africa, right? Next is the Mozambique Channel between in the Indian Ocean between Mozambique and the African mainland, English Channel between England and the European mainland. Next is Strait of Dover. Strait of Dover is the smallest area between the Britain and France, right? So Strait of Dover is there. Next is Suez Canal. What is a canal? Canal is when a strait is a man-made. It's called canal. Suez Canal. Kiel Suez Canal is in Egypt. Kiel Canal is in Germany, right? Separating North Sea from the Baltic Sea. Okay. Panama Canal, as already discussed. Then Bosphorus Strait. The Bosphorus Strait is in Turkey. It separates the Black Sea from the Sea of Marmara, right? So if you start from the Russia or you start from the Ukraine, the first strait you will encounter is the Bosphorus, and it's in Istanbul. Yeah, okay. Very important and the narrowest navigable strait in the world. Then we have Magellan Strait. Magellan Strait is in, Chile, separating, South Pacific Ocean from the Atlantic Ocean, right? Next is the Florida Strait. Florida Strait is it separates the Cuba from the Florida. Next is the Hudson Strait. Hudson Strait separates uh, quite Baffin Islands from the mainland Canada. And next is Davis Strait. Davis Strait separates. It's a quite very broad strait from Baffin Islands from the Greenland. Next is the Hormuz Strait, very important. Iran, right? Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman, and the Persian Gulf is separated by the Hormuz Strait. Then is Bab el Mandeb. Bab el Mandeb means the gateway of the tears. The reason why it is named so, because if you look into the map, so here is Bab el Mandeb, right? It actually, when there was lots of earthquake, so lots of people died, and hence it is known as the gateway of the tears. Bab al Mandeb. Bab means gate, right? So that was an interesting fact to know. Now, Bab el Mandeb. After this, we have the Sunda Strait. Sunda Strait separates, the Java from Sumatra in Indonesia. Then we have Lombok Strait. Lombok Strait separates the Bali from the Lombok. Then we have Bonifacio, right, Strait, which separates the France from Italy, both islands, the Corsica of France from the Sardinia of Italy. Next, we have Dardanelles Strait. The Dardanelles Strait is another strait. Again, if you start from Ukraine, the first strait you will encounter in Istanbul is Bosphorus Strait. Then comes, which separates Black Sea from the Sea of Marmara. Then comes the Dardanelles Strait, which separates the Sea of Marmara from the Aegean Sea, right? So these were the important straits, which was like very interesting to know. The South America lies mostly in the southern hemisphere, right? We have already Andes, and the Amazon, the world's largest river, Andes, and the world's lengthiest mountain chain. Next is Australia, smallest country, lies completely in southern hemisphere, island continent, Antarctica. Is southern hemisphere, South Pole lies almost at the center of the continent. The two Indian research stations are the Maitri and the Dakshin Gangotri. Okay. Next is the hydrosphere. I've already discussed the etymology of hydrosphere. Ud is the root word. More than 71% of the earth is covered with the water and 29% with the land. All right. Uh, you know, 33% of the earth's area is covered by the Pacific Ocean. So can you imagine if whole of the land is also, combined, even then Pacific Ocean will be larger than that of the combined land mass, right? Another important fact: more than 97% of Earth's water is found in ocean, and it is too salty for human use. Okay. Next, we come to the oceans. Now, very interestingly, there are five major oceans. Not many people know this. People confuse with the four, or people confuse with three. The Before discussing the major oceans, there are three chief movements of water. There are waves, tides, and the ocean currents. Right? We'll discuss later what are these in details. Before that, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean, as already told. 1/3 of the Earth is covered by the Pacific Ocean, and the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the Earth, lies in the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is almost circular in shape. Very interesting to know that, right? Asia, Australia, North and South America surround it, right? And that is the Pacific Ocean, and not the Antarctica, and neither Africa, neither Europe. Okay, the Atlantic Ocean is second largest ocean, and it is S-shaped. Very interestingly to know, the coastline of Atlantic Ocean is highly indented. Here you can see what does indentation means. This irregular and indented coastline provides ideal location for natural harbors in the coast, and that is why, from the viewpoint of commerce, it is the busiest ocean in the world, right? Indian Ocean, the only ocean named after a country, and almost triangular in shape. So we have encountered three shapes. First is Pacific, circular; Atlantic, S shape; and Indian, which is triangular in shape. Okay. Yeah. Yes, next is Indian Ocean. It is has contact with only three continents: Africa, Asia, and Australia. Next, we have the Southern Ocean. It encircles the continent of Antarctica and extends northward from Antarctica to 60 degrees south latitude. So, above 60 degrees south latitude, we have the Indian Ocean, and below 60 degrees south latitude, we have Southern Ocean. Very interesting and very important to know. Most of the people don't know this. What is the extent of Southern Ocean? Most people don't know the Southern Ocean, right? Next is the Arctic Ocean, located within the Arctic Circle and surround the North Pole, connected by Pacific Ocean by a narrow stretch of shallow water known as the Bering Strait. We have already discussed. Yeah, bounded by northern coast of North America and Eurasia to which forms the southern boundary of Arctic Ocean, right? Okay. Atmosphere extends up to height of 1600 kilometers. That was, interesting fact to know. The atmosphere is divided into 5 layers based on the composition, temperature, and other properties. These layers, starting from the Earth's surface, are called the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, and the exosphere. Right? We'll discuss deeply about this later. Yes, 99% of clean dry air, nitrogen is 78, oxygen is 21, and other classes carbon dioxide, argon, and other comprise 1% by the volume. Okay. Very interesting to know that oxygen is life. Nitrogen also helps in life by helping in the growth of living organisms, right? And next, if we move to biosphere is the narrow zone of contact between the land and the water. It is in this zone that life that is unique to this planet exists. And there are several species that vary in size, from microbes to bacteria to huge mammals, and we must definitely use resources judiciously because it is impacting the biosphere. Yes. And definitely a very important fact in the questions, northern hemisphere is also called land hemisphere because of the dominance of land, right? So that was all about this chapter. Quite interesting, very informative chapter, one of the most informative chapter in NCERT class 6th geography. That's all. Thank you. Very welcome back, guys. So this is chapter 6th. Now this chapter says, and we will be discussing in this chapter major landforms of the earth, chapter 6, NCERT class 6th geography. Now landforms are the result of two processes, endogenetic process and exogenetic process, also known as the internal process, upliftment sinking of earth. External process is continuous wearing down and rebuilding of the land surface. Now this external process can again be divided into two parts, the erosion and the deposition. Erosion is, the wearing away of the earth's surface. The deposition is the rebuilding of the surface of being lowered by the process of erosion and is rebuilt by the process of deposition. These two processes are carried out by running water, ice and wind. Now broadly we can group different landforms depending on the elevation and slope as mountains, plateaus and plains. Very importantly, we can group different landforms depending upon the elevation and slope as mountains, plateaus and plains. Okay, first see what is a mountain. Mountain is any natural elevation of the earth's surface. Mountain may have a small summit and a broad base. Very important. Small summit, as you can see here, the summit is small, but if you see the base is very large. Okay, so that is general definition of mountain. It is considerably higher than the surrounding area. Okay, very important. What is glacier? Glaciers are permanently frozen rivers of ice. Right? Next we move to the mountains may be arranged in a line are known as range. Right? By the way, a very important mountains. Mount Everest is not the tallest mountain on the earth in terms of elevation. Rather, it's Mount Kia in Hawaii, and its height is roughly 10 kilometers, more than 10 kilometers. Mount Everest is roughly 9 kilometers. Okay, so it's Mount Kia in Hawaii, which is the tallest. All right. Some of the mountain ranges, as we were discussing, the Himalayas, the Alps, and the Andes. All right. So we discussed what are the three types of landforms, which are the plains, the plateaus, and the mountains. Next, we'll discuss what are the three types of mountains. The three types of mountains are the fold mountains, the block mountains, and the volcanic mountains. The fold mountains, the examples, the Himalayas, the Alps, which are young, they are very high, have rugged relief and conical peak. The relatively older fold mountains are the Appalachians and the Ural Mountains. The Appalachians in the North America and the Ural Mountains in Russia. They are, older than the Himalayas and the Alps, but they have, due to erosion, they have got rounded features and their elevation is low. The oldest fold mountain, one of the oldest fold mountains, and around twice old as the Ural Mountains. Urals are roughly 250 million years old, but Aravallis are roughly 550, more than that. Okay, so yeah, Proterozoic. Urals are like Carboniferous, right? So yes, Urals are Paleozoic, and the Aravallis, they are Proterozoic. So Proterozoic is more than 541 million years old. Paleozoic, it's roughly more than 250 million years old, right? So that is about the full mountains. Block mountains are created when the large areas, as you can see here, are broken and displaced vertically. So the uplifted blocks are called a horse, and the down. The lowered blocks are called graben. The Rhine Valley and the Vosges Mountain in Europe are some example of such mountain system. The next are the volcanic mountains, which are formed due to the volcanic activity. Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa and Mount Fujiyama in Japan are example of such mountains. Kilimanjaro is also the highest isolated mountain peak in the world. Very important. Mountains are very useful because mountains are the storehouse of the water. And many rivers have their source in the glaciers, in the mountains. Very important. These points are very important, so I am highlighting it now. The river valleys and terraces are ideal for the cultivation of crops. The mountains have a rich variety of flora and fauna. The forests provide fuel, fodder, shelter, and other products. Okay? Very, very important. Storehouse of water. Right? Gum Raisin Mountain, idyllic site for tourists. Very important. Good source of revenue. Scenic beauty, sports like paragliding, important. Sports like Winter Olympics in Russia, right? Hand gliding, river rafting, skiing. Okay. So that was the landform number 1, that is mountain. Next we move to plateaus. Plateaus is an elevated flat land. It is a flat-topped tableland. Okay. So the difference between the mountains, we saw what is a mountain. As we saw the definition here, the mountains have a small summit and a broad base. Small summit and a broad base. But if we see what is a plateau, plateau is a tableland. Okay, nothing like small summit. Okay, like here you can see a plateau here. So it doesn't have a cone at the top, right? So it is a flat top tableland standing above the surrounding area. Plateau may have one or more sides with steep slopes. The height of the plateau often varies from few hundred meters to several thousand meters. For example, the Deccan Plateau in India is one of the oldest plateau in the world. Now, if you compare and if you connect the dots, that the Deccan Plateau at once upon a time was joined with Africa as well as Australia, right? So the western part of Australia also has the plateau, and this part was joined with the India. And the eastern part of Africa, if you see the Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya, this was also joined with India. So all these parts are plateau, rich in mineral resources, right? And since they are like the hard rocks, so you will easily find the waterfalls. For example, in India, it's Hundru Falls in Chota Nagpur Plateau on the river Subarnika, and the Jog Falls in Karnataka are important waterfalls. Okay, the plateaus is very famous all over the world, very important in terms of the mineral resources. For example, in Africa, gold and diamond mining. In India, iron, coal, and manganese found in Chota Nagpur Plateau. Also in the Orissa region, full of minerals. Okay, same as in the western, Australia, western plateau of Australia, right? Okay, by the way, the tallest plateau, the most elevated plateau in the world is Tibet Plateau, more than 4,000 meters, more than 4 kilometers, Okay, so that is a tabletop. All right. Next, we move to the plains. The plains are the large stretches of the flat land. They are generally not more than 200 meters above the mean sea level. Okay, so plains are just like plateau. The difference being, first of all, the height is not more than 200 meters. Okay. Secondly, most of the plains are formed because of the depositional activity of the river. So from the mountains, when the river, comes down, it erodes the mountain and deposits the alluvium, silt, sand, etc., forming plain. Most of the plains are flat, but some are rolling and undulating also. Now, generally, plains are very fertile, and since they are fertile, the construction uh, work surrounding the agricultural activity, surrounding the people's inhabitation is very, very easy, and hence lots of population density is found in most of the countries in plains. Okay, and the country is having very rugged topography like Turkmenistan and some Central Asian countries. The population density is very, very low. Some of the important plains of the world are, for example, uh, the Ganga plain, the Ganges plain, the Yangtze plain in China, where most of the population lives in this region, not in Tibet, not in Xinjiang, not in Inner Mongolia region, right? Very important for human habitation, right? Next, a very important point is given. We use the land in a wasteful manner. How? By constructing houses in fertile land, right? By making big roads on fertile land. No, fertile land is fertile, hence make most use of agriculture there. Even if you want to set up industry, don't set up industries which are non-agricultural activities industries. Set up industry which is oriented to agriculture, so that people get jobs, and agriculture is promoted rather than setting up defense, right? Yeah. Okay, apart from these, we also throw garbage in river. We also throw garbage on land, making it dirty, right? So this is how we can change, and we can change our, we can help in making our land better. All right. So that was all about chapter number 6, the major landforms of the earth. Thank you.